The Cursed Manor and the Biker. Prologue. A dark night, a deserted road, and a mysterious manor. These were the ingredients of the most terrifying experience in Zubair's life, the night ride. Zubair was a young adventurer who loved riding his motorcycle to remote places. That night, he was returning from visiting an old friend and decided to take a shortcut through a rarely traveled road. The sky was covered with thick clouds hiding the moons, and the shadows of the trees stretched out as if trying to stop him. He accelerated, but suddenly his motorcycle sputtered and came to a complete stop. Seriously? Now? He muttered, trying several times to restart it, but it refused to start. Looking around, he spotted an old, crumbling manor in the distance. Its massive, cracked walls, windows overgrown with vines, and a faint, flickering light inside sent a shiver down his spine. The first step into horror. He had no other choice. Maybe he could find help there. Leaving his bike on the roadside, he walked toward the manor. The door was old, creaking with the wind, as if it hadn't been opened in years. He knocked gently. No response. Hello? Is anyone there? He called out. Suddenly, the door slowly swung open on its own. Inside, everything was eerily silent, but a whisper seemed to linger in the air, as if his presence had been noticed. His heart pounded, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. He stepped inside. A world of shadows. The interior of the manor was even more terrifying. Old portraits hung on the walls, their eyes seemingly following him. Everything was covered in dust, and the air smelled of dampness and decay. Then, out of nowhere, the door behind him slammed shut. Zubair flinched. He was about to turn back when he noticed a dim light flickering from an old lantern. In its glow, he could make out the silhouette of an old man sitting on a wooden chair. The mysterious old man. "What are you doing here, young man?" the old man asked in a raspy voice. "My bike broke down. I need help. Whose house is this?" Zubair replied. The old man smiled, but there was no warmth in his expression. "This house called you, those who enter never leave." Zubair frowned. "What do you mean?" The old man lowered his head and said, "This house belongs to no one, or maybe to everyone." Suddenly, Zubair heard a faint laughter. He turned abruptly, but there was no one there. The old man slowly lifted his gaze and whispered, "You are never alone here." Zubair's heart pounded in his chest. "I need to get out," he shouted and ran toward the door, but it was locked. Before he could look for another way out, the portraits started falling off the walls. A chilling whisper filled the room. "You shouldn't have come." Zubair felt an icy shiver crawl up his spine. The dark shadow. Suddenly, from the depths of the darkness, a black figure emerged and glided toward him. He stumbled backward, falling onto the dusty floor. The shadow drew closer. He looked around, but the old man was gone, as if he had never been there. He banged on the door desperately, but his hands were trembling, a desperate escape. Zubair tried to steady himself and ran toward a nearby window. Just as he reached it, he felt an ice-cold hand grip his shoulder. With all his strength, he broke free and leaped through the window. The bike waiting for him? Outside, he ran straight to his motorcycle. To his shock, the engine was running, purring softly as if it had never broken down. Without thinking twice, he jumped onto the seat and sped away at full throttle, never daring to look back. The end, or just the beginning? A few days later, Zubair asked an elderly man in the village about the manor. The old man's eyes widened in shock, and he said, "Son, that house burned down 50 years ago," and on his shoulder. Some things never disappear.